13. Black famous women who had no idea their husbands were secretly gay. The perfect romance can conceal a double life so deceptive it shatters reality when the mask slips. Behind closed doors, sacred vows are spoken, just to hide a forbidden truth. One unexpected text is all it takes for a marriage to rapidly unravel. In Hollywood, a flawless union is survival currency. While these celebrated black icons walked red carpets beside their leading men, they were trapped in a scripted illusion. Terrified of scandals, their husbands forced them to suffer the ultimate betrayal in secret. Today on Black Hollywood Uncut, we expose 13 famous black women who had no clue their husbands lived secret double lives. Subscribe and hit that notification bell. Watch until the very end, because the mind-bending betrayals on our countdown will leave you speechless. Lena Horne, died age 92 in 2010. Lena Horne died at age 92 in 2010. But long before the world said goodbye to her, she had already become one of the most unforgettable black women in entertainment history. She was beautiful, elegant, sharp, and fiercely talented. A singer and actress who broke through doors Hollywood never wanted to open for women like her. In the 1940s, Horne rose to fame with films like Stormy Weather, becoming a symbol of glamour at a time when black performers were still being pushed to the margins. But behind that polished image was a woman constantly fighting racism, control, and the painful cost of survival in show business. Her second marriage to Lenny Hayton, a respected white MGM composer and music director, was one of the most complicated chapters of her life. They married in Paris in 1947, during an era when interracial love could destroy careers, reputations, and even personal safety. For years, the marriage was surrounded by pressure and secrecy. Horne later admitted that, at first, she married Hayton partly to help cross the color line in Hollywood and protect her career. But over time, she said she learned to love him deeply. Their relationship was never simple. It carried the weight of race, ambition, public judgment, and private loneliness. Some stories around Hayton's private life have been repeated over the years, including claims that their marriage was not a traditional romance in the way the public imagined. But what is clear is this: Lena Horne lived through a Hollywood system where image often mattered more than truth. Marriages could become shields. Love could become strategy. And behind the smiles on magazine covers, many stars were carrying secrets they could never safely explain. For Lena, the marriage did not end in a clean break. She and Hayton separated in the 1960s, but never divorced before his death in 1971. That alone says how emotionally tangled their bond really was. Was it love, protection, arrangement, loyalty, or all of those things at once? Lena Horne's story reminds us that behind every glamorous icon, there may be a private life far more complicated than the audience ever sees. Dorothy Dandridge, died, age 42, in 1965. Dorothy Dandridge died at age 42 in 1965. Leaving behind one of the most beautiful yet heartbreaking legacies in Black Hollywood history. She was not just a glamorous face on screen. She was a barrier breaker. In 1954, Dandridge became the first black woman nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actress, a milestone that should have opened every door. But Hollywood was not built to protect women like her. It admired her beauty, used her talent, and still kept her trapped inside the cruel limits of race, gender, and image. Her marriage to Harold Nicholas, one half of the legendary Nicholas Brothers dance duo, looked dazzling from the outside. Two young black stars, both gifted, both admired, both moving through a world that celebrated them on stage, but often denied them peace in private. They married in 1942, and for a moment, it seemed like Dorothy had stepped into the kind of love story Hollywood itself would have sold to the public. But behind the shine, the marriage quickly became painful and lonely. In 1943, Dorothy gave birth to their daughter, Harolyn Suzanne Nicholas. Harolyn was born with severe intellectual disabilities, and Dorothy carried deep guilt and sorrow over her daughter's condition for the rest of her life. While she was trying to build a career in a racist industry and care for a child who needed constant attention, Harold was often absent. Their marriage suffered under emotional distance, career pressure, and the unstable lifestyle surrounding fame. They eventually separated and divorced in 1951. Some versions of Dorothy's story have tried to connect Harold Nicholas to hidden same-sex rumors, but that claim should be treated carefully, because strong public evidence is limited. What can be said with confidence is that Dorothy entered a marriage that failed to give her the loyalty, emotional security, and protection she needed. Her real tragedy was not one single betrayal. It was the slow destruction caused by neglect, racism, loneliness, and a system that demanded perfection from her, while offering almost no mercy in return. By the time Dorothy Dandridge passed away from an accidental overdose in 1965, she had already given the world history. But behind that historic glow was a woman who spent her life searching for love, safety, and truth in places that too often gave her only heartbreak. Terry McMillan, 74 age. Now, Terry McMillan is 74 years old now, and her story remains one of the most public and emotionally explosive examples of love, betrayal, and reinvention. Before her marriage became tabloid news, McMillan was already a literary powerhouse. She gave voice to Black women's desire, pain, humor, and independence through best-selling novels like Waiting to Exhale and How Stella Got Her Groove Back. Her work made millions of readers feel seen. But then, the woman who wrote so vividly about romance found herself trapped inside a love story that collapsed in front of the entire world. In the mid-1990s, Terry met Jonathan Plummer, a much younger Jamaican man who seemed to bring freshness and passion into her life. Their age gap drew attention, but McMillan believed she had found something real. Their relationship even helped inspire the romantic fantasy behind How Stella Got Her Groove Back, turning her private happiness into a cultural moment. In 1998, they married, and to outsiders, it looked like Terry had become the living proof of her own fiction, a successful woman finding love on her own terms. But years later, that image shattered. In 2004, Plummer told McMillan he was gay, and she filed for divorce soon after. The separation became painfully public, especially when the two appeared on The Oprah Winfrey Show. McMillan said she felt deceived and humiliated, while Plummer argued that he had only come to understand his sexuality later. The emotional tension between them was raw, uncomfortable, and impossible to ignore. This was not just a celebrity breakup. It was a public collision between love, identity, anger, and the question of what honesty truly means inside a marriage. For Terry, the deepest wound was not simply that her husband was gay. It was the feeling that the life she believed she was building had been based on a truth she never fully knew. The man who had once symbolized romance and renewal became the center of one of the most painful chapters of her life. Yet Terry McMillan did not disappear into that heartbreak. Over time, she spoke more openly, softened some of her anger, and continued to stand as one of the most important Black female voices in American literature. Her story reminds viewers that even the strongest women can be blindsided by love, but surviving the truth can become its own kind of power. Melba Moore, 80, age, now. Melba Moore is 80 years old now, and her life story carries the kind of drama that could fill an entire stage before the first song even begins. Long before her name was pulled into painful headlines, Moore was celebrated as one of the most gifted voices in Black entertainment. She conquered Broadway, won a Tony Award, crossed into R&B, and built a career on elegance, power, and emotional fire. When Melba sang, she did not just perform a note, she told the truth through it. In 1974, she married Charles Huggins, a music executive and producer who became deeply tied to her professional world. At first, the relationship appeared to be a partnership built on love, ambition, and trust. Huggins was not simply a husband standing beside a star. He was involved in the business side of her life, helping guide decisions, manage money, and shape parts of her career. From the outside, they looked like a strong entertainment couple, a brilliant singer and a man who understood the industry around her. But as the years passed, the marriage became far more complicated. Moore later spoke about feeling financially and emotionally betrayed, describing a painful collapse that affected not only her marriage, but also her career and stability. Their divorce in the early 1990s became public and bitter, with accusations, legal conflict, and deep personal wounds. In some retellings, Huggins has been connected to rumors about a hidden private life, But that part of the story should be handled carefully, because not every claim has been publicly proven with strong evidence. What is clear is that Melba Moore experienced a devastating betrayal inside a marriage where trust and business were dangerously tangled together. When love, money, fame, and control all exist under one roof, the damage can become almost impossible to separate. Moore did not just lose a relationship. She had to rebuild pieces of her life while the public watched. Yet what makes her story powerful is not only the downfall, it is the survival. Melba Moore kept singing, kept performing, and kept reminding audiences that a woman can be wounded without being finished. Her voice carried heartbreak, but it also carried victory. Phyllis Hyman, die. Age 45, in 1995. Phyllis Hyman died at age 45 in 1995, and her story remains one of the most haunting chapters in the history of black music. She was tall, elegant, magnetic, and blessed with a voice that sounded like velvet wrapped around pain. When Phyllis Hyman sang, there was always something deeper beneath the surface, not just beauty, but loneliness, longing, and a sadness many listeners could feel even when they did not know her private battles. In the late 1970s, Hyman married Larry Alexander, a man connected to her career and professional world. Their marriage was not the fairy tale escape many fans might have imagined for a woman so admired. Like many artists, Phyllis lived under the pressure of the music industry, where image, performance, and emotional survival often collided. Behind the glamorous stage lights, she faced struggles that were far heavier than most people understood. The transcript connects her marriage to claims about hidden relationships and private betrayal. But this part of the story should be treated cautiously. Publicly verified information about Larry Alexander's sexuality is limited, and it would not be responsible to present rumor as confirmed fact. What can be said more safely is that Phyllis Hyman's marriage did not give her the emotional peace many people hoped she had found. The relationship ended, and her personal life remained marked by loneliness, depression, and disappointment. Her pain did not come from one single chapter alone. It came from years of pressure. Pressure to be beautiful, pressure to be successful, pressure to fit into an industry that often praised her voice while failing to protect her spirit. Hyman struggled with depression and substance abuse, and over time, the darkness around her grew heavier. Still, she continued to create music that felt painfully honest. Songs like hers did not sound manufactured, they sounded lived in. By the time Phyllis Hyman died by suicide in 1995, she had already become more than a singer. She had become a symbol of what can happen when talent, heartbreak, and untreated pain exist in the same body for too long. Her story is not just about marriage or rumor. It is about a brilliant woman whose voice survived in ways her heart could not. Star Jones, 64 age. Now, Star Jones is 64 years old now, and her story shows how a marriage can look flawless under bright lights, while carrying questions the public never stops whispering about. Long before her personal life became headline material, Star had already built an impressive name for herself. She was a lawyer, television journalist, and one of the original co-hosts of The View. Smart, polished, outspoken, and confident, she became one of the most recognizable black women on daytime television. In 2004, Star married Al Reynolds in one of the most talked-about celebrity weddings of the decade. The ceremony was glamorous, expensive, and impossible to ignore. Cameras, magazines, luxury details, and celebrity guests turned the wedding into a media event. To many viewers, it looked like Star had stepped into the perfect fairy tale. But almost immediately, public whispers began surrounding Reynolds. People questioned his sexuality, and the rumors became so loud that they followed the couple everywhere. At the time, Star stood by her husband. She defended the marriage and presented the image of a happy, powerful couple. On red carpets, in interviews, and in public appearances, they looked united. But behind the polished smiles, their relationship was under constant pressure. When a marriage becomes a spectacle, every glance, every silence, and every rumor turns into a weapon. For Star, the challenge was not only being a wife, she also had to protect her dignity, while the public debated the man she had chosen. Their marriage ended in divorce in 2008. Years later, Al Reynolds publicly came out as bisexual, explaining that he had struggled with identity, faith, and pressure from the Black community and conservative religious spaces. That revelation brought old rumors back into the spotlight. However, Reynolds has also said that Starr knew about his sexuality, which makes this story more complicated than a simple tale of deception. Still, Starr Jones's chapter remains powerful because it exposes the tension between public image and private truth. Her wedding was sold like a dream, but the aftermath showed how quickly glamour can turn into scrutiny. Whether people see her as betrayed, misled, or simply caught inside a complicated marriage, one thing is clear. Starr Jones survived the humiliation of public judgment and continued standing as a strong, visible woman in media. Tisha Campbell, 57, age, now. Tisha Campbell is 57 years old now, and her story carries the weight of a woman who spent more than 2 decades building a marriage in the public eye, only to watch it unravel under painful questions and private disappointment. Before her divorce became part of celebrity conversation, Tisha was already beloved by millions. From Martin to My Wife and Kids, she brought humor, beauty, timing, and personality to television screens across America. She was not just a sitcom actress. She became part of Black pop culture memory. In 1996, Tisha married actor Dwayne Martin. At the time, they looked like one of Hollywood's most promising Black couples. Both were young, attractive, successful, and connected to the entertainment world. Their relationship seemed stable in an industry where marriages often fell apart quickly. For years, they appeared together at events, raised children, and gave the public an image of partnership. To many fans, they were a familiar example of Black love surviving the chaos of fame. But as time passed, their marriage became more complicated behind closed doors. Tisha later described serious problems in the relationship, including financial stress, emotional pain, and allegations connected to control and mistreatment. Their separation in 2018 shocked many people because the marriage had lasted more than 20 years. When a relationship lasts that long, the public often assumes it must be solid. But time does not always mean peace. Sometimes it only means a person has endured more than anyone realized. The transcript connects Tisha's story to claims about Dwayne Martin's sexuality, but that part must be handled carefully. Dwayne has been the subject of rumors for years, yet there is no reliable public confirmation that he came out as bisexual or gay. Because of that, it would be unfair and legally risky to present those rumors as fact. The stronger and safer angle is that Tisha's marriage became surrounded by public speculation, while the confirmed breakdown involved divorce, conflict, and painful accusations between husband and wife. What makes Tisha Campbell's story compelling is not gossip alone. It is the emotional image of a woman who gave years of her life to a marriage while still trying to keep her career, motherhood, and identity intact. Her story reminds viewers that even the couples who look most stable on the outside may be carrying battles no camera can capture. Tamar Braxton, 49, age, now. Tamar Braxton is 49 years old now, and her story has always carried the intensity of a woman who lives loudly, loves deeply, and refuses to pretend when something hurts. Born into the famous Braxton family, Tamar grew up surrounded by music, talent, and expectation. She was not just Toni Braxton's younger sister. Over time, she fought to build her own name as a singer, television personality, and reality star with a voice and personality impossible to ignore. In 2001, Tamar married music producer Daryl Delight Allenby. At that point, she was still trying to carve out her identity in the music business, an industry where trust could be just as dangerous as ambition. A producer husband might look like protection from the outside, someone who understands the studio, the pressure, the hunger, and the dream. But private relationships inside entertainment can become complicated fast, especially when love and career begin to overlap. Their marriage did not last long. Tamar and Allenby divorced in 2003, and later, Tamar spoke publicly about that chapter as painful and disappointing. The transcript connects this marriage to claims about hidden sexuality, but that part should be treated carefully. There is not enough strong public evidence to present those claims as confirmed fact. What can be said more responsibly is that Tamar described the relationship as one that left her with emotional lessons about trust, honesty, and knowing who someone truly is, before building a future with them. That is what makes Tamar's story compelling. It is not just about one marriage ending. It is about a young woman learning, under public pressure, that love without transparency can leave wounds long after the divorce papers are signed. Tamar's later life would bring more relationships, more heartbreak, more reality TV exposure, and more moments where the world watched her pain before she had fully processed it herself. Still, Tamar Braxton's power has always been her ability to come back. She can cry, explode, laugh, sing, and stand again. Whether people admire her or debate her, they keep watching, because Tamar is never emotionally empty. Her story reminds viewers that behind every bold personality, there may be a woman who once trusted the wrong person and had to rebuild herself in front of everyone. Tichina Arnold, 57 age. Now Tichina Arnold is 57 years old now, and her story is a sharp reminder that even women known for making the world laugh can carry humiliating heartbreak behind closed doors. To millions of fans, Tichina is unforgettable. From her role as Pam on Martin, to her work on Everybody Hates Chris and other television projects, she became one of those rare actresses whose voice, face, and timing are instantly recognizable. She brought attitude, humor, warmth, and confidence to black television, earning a place in pop culture that few performers ever reach. But her personal life has not always matched the laughter she gave audiences. After her first marriage ended, Tichina later married basketball coach Rico Hines in 2012. At first, the relationship seemed like a fresh start. She was a working actress, a mother, and a woman who appeared to have found stability with a man outside the loudest parts of Hollywood. Friends and fans hoped this marriage would bring peace. Then the image cracked. In 2016, reports surfaced that Tichina had separated from Hines after discovering explicit video evidence of infidelity. The story became public in a painful way, and Tichina was forced into the kind of humiliation no wife wants attached to her name. The transcript connects this betrayal to same-sex claims, but that detail should be handled very carefully because reliable public reporting identifies the scandal mainly as infidelity, involving another woman, not confirmed relationships with men. For that reason, it would be unsafe and inaccurate to frame Rico Hines as secretly gay, based only on rumor. The stronger truth is already painful enough. Tichina Arnold experienced a marriage where trust was broken, and she had to protect herself while the public watched. Her decision to walk away showed that she was not willing to cover up betrayal just to keep a perfect image. In a world where celebrity women are often expected to smile through embarrassment, Tichina's response felt direct, wounded, and human. What makes her story powerful is the contrast. On screen, she was the quick-witted woman with the perfect comeback. Off-screen, she was dealing with a private betrayal that no joke could erase. Yet Tichina kept working, kept raising her daughter, and kept showing up with strength. Her chapter is not simply gossip. It is a story about dignity after public humiliation and the courage to leave when respect is gone. Portia Williams, 45 age now. Portia Williams is 45 years old now, and her story shows how quickly a picture-perfect marriage can turn into one of reality television's most debated breakups. Before the public dissected her private life, Portia was known as a bold, glamorous personality on The Real Housewives of Atlanta. She brought beauty, humor, emotion, and drama to the screen. But behind the entertainment value was a woman trying to understand what had really happened inside her marriage. In 2011, Portia married Cordell Stewart, a former NFL star whose image was built around strength, discipline, and masculinity. To many fans, the marriage looked impressive from the outside. He was a famous athlete with a respected name in sports, and she was a young woman stepping into television fame. Together, they seemed like the kind of couple people expected to last, polished, attractive, and successful. But once Portia appeared on reality television, viewers began noticing tension. Her marriage seemed controlled, distant, and emotionally uneven. She often appeared to be trying to fit into the role of the perfect wife, while still wanting her own voice, career, and independence. As the relationship became more visible, so did the questions around it. Old rumors about Cordell's sexuality had followed him for years, and once the marriage began falling apart, those rumors returned with force. In 2013, Cordell filed for divorce, shocking Portia and creating a painful public unraveling. On television and in interviews, Portia questioned parts of their intimacy and suggested there were things about the marriage that never felt fully right to her. However, it is important to be careful here. Cordell Stewart has repeatedly denied being gay or bisexual, and there has never been reliable public confirmation proving those rumors. Because of that, this story should not be framed as confirmed fact. It is more accurate to say that Portia's marriage became surrounded by speculation, suspicion, and unresolved questions. What makes Portia's chapter so watchable is not just the rumor. It is the emotional transformation. She entered the marriage trying to be chosen, approved, and protected. She left it forced to rebuild herself while millions watched. Whether people believe her doubts or question the gossip, one thing is clear. Portia Williams turned public heartbreak into a turning point. After the divorce, she became louder, stronger, and more independent, proving that even when a marriage breaks your image, it does not have to break your future. Jevetta Steele, 63. Age now. Jevetta Steele is 63 years old now, and her story is one of the most painful and emotionally complex chapters, connected to love, secrecy, and survival. She is a gifted singer and performer, known for a voice that carries both strength and vulnerability. Many people remember her from music, theater, and her powerful artistic presence. But behind that talent was a personal experience so shocking that she later transformed it into art. Jevetta married a man she trusted, a fellow musician who seemed to share her world, her creativity, and her hopes for family. Their relationship appeared normal from the outside. They built a life together, made music, and moved through the kind of partnership that looked steady to people watching from a distance. But sometimes the most devastating secrets are not hidden from strangers. They are hidden from the person sleeping beside you. The most painful moment came when Jevetta was heavily pregnant. At a time when she should have been preparing for birth, safety, and motherhood, she discovered a truth that shook the foundation of her marriage. Her husband was HIV positive, and the revelation brought fear not only for her own life, but also for her unborn child. In later retellings connected to her stage work, the story also involved the discovery of hidden sexuality and a private life she had not fully understood. That combination, pregnancy, illness, secrecy, and betrayal, made her experience especially devastating. What separates Jevetta Steele's story from simple celebrity scandal is what she did with the pain. Instead of letting the betrayal become only a wound, she turned it into a stage production called Two Queens, One Castle. Through that work, she explored the emotional collision between a wife and a gay man, connected by love, deception, fear, and family. The story gave audiences a way to confront subjects that many communities were afraid to speak about openly: HIV, secrecy, sexuality, marriage, and the damage caused when truth is delayed too long. Jevetta's chapter is not about mocking anyone's identity. It is about the cost of silence. It asks what happens when fear forces one person to hide, while another person unknowingly carries the consequences. Her experience reminds viewers that honesty in marriage is not a small detail. It can be the difference between trust and trauma, between protection and danger, between a family built on truth and one shattered by what was never said. Louise Thompson Patterson died age 97 in 1999. Louise Thompson Patterson died at age 97 in 1999, leaving behind a legacy far bigger than one painful marriage. She was an educator, intellectual, activist, and one of the women whose presence helped shape the world around the Harlem Renaissance. Louise moved among writers, artists, thinkers, and political voices at a time when Black culture was exploding with brilliance. But Black women were still expected to remain quiet, graceful, and useful in the background. She refused to be small. In 1928, Louise married Wallace Thurman, a gifted but troubled writer, best known for The Blacker the Berry. On paper, they looked like an ideal match. She was intelligent, socially connected, and politically aware. He was a rising literary figure with a sharp mind and a place among the bold young voices of Harlem. Their union seemed like more than romance. It looked like a meeting of two powerful Black intellectual worlds. But almost as soon as the marriage began, the illusion started to crack. Louise later said the relationship quickly became emotionally empty and confusing. Thurman was distant, restless, and carrying private struggles that he did not openly reveal. According to Louise's later account, the marriage collapsed because Thurman was involved with men, a truth that would have been dangerous to admit publicly in the late 1920s. At that time, a black writer already had to fight racism, respectability politics, and public judgment. To be openly gay or bisexual could have threatened not only his career, but his place inside the cultural movement itself. That is what makes Louise's story so layered. She was not simply a wife who discovered a secret. She was a woman caught inside a world where image, status, and silence could be stronger than honesty. Their marriage reportedly lasted only months, but the emotional meaning of it lasted much longer. For Louise, the experience revealed how easily women could be used as protection for men, trying to survive public pressure. Yet Louise Thompson Patterson was never defined by that failed marriage. Afterward, she became even more deeply involved in activism, labor causes, civil rights, and black women's political organizing. Her life proves that one painful chapter does not erase a woman's power. She walked out of a marriage built on silence and stepped into a lifetime of speaking loudly for justice. Yolande Dubois died, age 60, in 1961. Yolande Dubois died at age 60 in 1961, but her name remains tied to one of the most talked about marriages of the Harlem Renaissance. She was the daughter of W.E.B. Du Bois, one of the most important black intellectuals in American history. That meant Yolande grew up under a heavy kind of spotlight. She was not just a young woman trying to find love. She was the daughter of a giant, watched by a community that treated her choices as symbols of status, respectability, and racial pride. In 1928, Yolande married poet Countee Cullen in a ceremony so grand that people remembered it almost like a royal wedding. Thousands attended. Harlem's most influential writers, artists, educators, and social leaders filled the room. On the surface, it looked like a perfect cultural union. The daughter of W.E.B. Du Bois, marrying one of the brightest poets of the new Negro movement. It was beautiful, public, and historic. But behind the celebration was a much colder truth. The marriage was troubled almost from the beginning. Cullen had long been surrounded by questions about his sexuality, especially because of his close relationship with Harold Jackman, a handsome teacher and model who moved in the same artistic circles. Many people in Harlem's elite world seemed to understand what Yolande did not fully know before the wedding. In that sense, her marriage became more than a personal relationship. It became a public performance designed to protect reputation. Soon after the wedding, the distance between Yolande and Cullen became impossible to ignore. Cullen left for Paris, and the emotional gap widened. According to historical accounts, he later revealed to Yolande that he was attracted to men. For a new bride who had just been placed at the center of a massive public ceremony, that truth must have felt devastating. The marriage that had been celebrated as a symbol of black excellence quickly became a private humiliation. They divorced in 1930, only 2 years after the wedding. But Yolande's pain was not simply the end of a marriage. It was the realization that her life had been shaped by other people's expectations, secrets, and public image. Her story reminds viewers that even in circles filled with brilliance and culture, women could still be asked to carry the cost of silence. Behind Harlem's glamour was a young woman who deserved the truth before the vows were ever spoken. Navigating the blinding spotlights of fame while surviving the heartbreak of deception is a devastating burden to carry. For years, rigid societal stigmas and suffocating industry pressures forced many of these extraordinary women to protect their public image, swallowing their deepest betrayals and suffering through their darkest hours in complete silence. Yet no secret double life or emotional trauma could ever dismantle the incredible strength and grace these icons embody. While their private worlds were temporarily shattered by hidden truths, their unmatched resilience, undeniable talent, and lasting contributions to black entertainment remain powerful, timeless, and completely untouchable by any personal scandal. Which of these shocking relationship revelations surprised you the most? And whose incredible resilience do you admire above all? Share your thoughts in the comments below, hit that like button, subscribe to Black Hollywood Uncut, and ring the notification bell for more unvarnished true stories.